I'm going to call the Board of Selectmen, Select Board, sorry, meeting to order for Monday, November 20th, 2023. And as required by open meeting law, you are hereby informed that the town will be video and audio taping as well as live broadcasting this public meeting. In addition, anyone in the audience who plans to video or audio tape this meeting must notify the chairman prior to the start of the meeting, excuse me. And hearing nobody, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Anyone for public comments and announcements? Megan?
I want to announce that Saturday is Small Business Saturday Open House at the 204 from 11 to 2. And there's a holiday market and open house from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday, December 2nd. Both of those events can be found on the 204's website and the town's web page. I want to remind everyone that Thanksgiving is Thursday and Town Hall is closed both Thursday and Friday this week, reopening for regular business on Monday. And I hope you all noticed the wonderfully bright lights out in the parking lot. There were some concerns last week, and we had our facilities maintenance workers help out with that, and all of the lights have been replaced, and it's somewhat brighter out there.
Excellent.
We could still use another light in the middle of the parking lot, but that's for another day.
That's great. Thank you, Megan. Jeff?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair. I unfortunately have to reschedule my office hours next week from Thursday, the 30th, to Wednesday, the 29th. I was made aware by my wife that it's my son's 8th birthday, and I could have office hours, but I just wouldn't have a home to come back to. So I figured best to move it to one day earlier, which is Wednesday, the 29th. Hope to see you all there, 5 to 7 at the 204 building.
Thank you, Jeff.
Just for self-preservation.
Anybody else for public comment and announcement? Hearing no one, we'll go on to the public hearing, the joint meeting with the Select Board and the Board of Assessors.
He has to read the public.
Yeah.
Yes. Good evening. The Harwich Select Board will hold a public hearing on Monday, November 20th, 2023, no earlier than 6 p.m. during their regularly scheduled meeting. The hearing will be in the Don B. Griffin Room located at Town Hall at 732 Main Street, Harwich, for the purpose of deciding whether all properties shall be taxed at the same rate for fiscal year 2024 as set forth in Chapter 40, Section 56 of the Mass General Laws. All members of the public having an interest in this topic are cordially invited to attend the public hearing and provide information and testimony relevant to this matter. Remote participation will also be available. Please see the posted agenda for dial-in information.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Evening, Richard. You want to call your board to...
Good evening, Madam Chair. We'll call the Board of Assessors meeting to order. I would like to introduce the members of the board who are with me tonight, Mr. Bruce Nightingale, Mr. Jay Kavanaugh, and I would also like to welcome to her first classification hearing our Director of Assessing, Carleen Jones. Joined with us in back is the Assistant Assessor, Madison LeBlanc, and now better known no longer as our Interim Assessor, but our consultant for Article 39, Gail McAleer, in back. So thank you. Glad to have everyone here. Madam Chair, this is my, I think, 18th time appearing at a classification hearing for the Board of Assessors. And we're here as we are every year to decide how the town, I make a recommendation to your board as to what we feel is the appropriate way to tax the community. We met earlier today, and these packets are still warm. They're coming right off the printer. They were literally printed 10 minutes ago. At our meeting earlier today, our board met and voted to vote a residential factor of 1 and not to grant an open space, a residential, or a small business exemption. And our recommendation to you as a board has not changed. Not changed for many, many reasons. Those who are aware of taxation is that the town is valued based on the values of the real estate market. And our values were certified a week ago. The values of this community are up 14%. And I want to explain to folks who may be watching is that those values are as of January 1st of a year with the real estate comps or comparable properties from the year before. So it is an aged value, but the Department of Revenue requires us to assign value to property within the community at, in essence, a minimum of 95% of fair market value, which we have tried to do. We're fortunate that we have an outside company that does our valuation, PK Associates, that is recognized as the leader on Cape Cod in assigning value. They've done a great job with us. And I need to commend Carly and her staff. Literally, we were meeting this afternoon, getting the final numbers together. These recommendations haven't changed, and I know folks have floated in the past, maybe we should consider doing a residential exemption. And I want to point people out to a study that was done by the town of Lexington a couple of years ago. They did a year-long study evaluating this process. And they produced a 200-page report that came to the same recommendation that we're coming to tonight and making to you. They brought in economists, housing experts, outside appraisers, realtors, townspeople. They put a committee together. And in that report, their recommendations were to not have a residential exemption, but to provide the residents of that community with the programs that are available through the state. And I want to commend our Director of Assessing. Town of Harwich is known as having the greatest number of exemptions available to our residents. Our seniors, in this particular case, can receive up to $3,000 off of their taxes every year utilizing our senior tax credit program and a work-off program. And we have fought diligently as a board. The gentlemen behind me have gone ahead to file legislation to see that we can offer the greatest tax credits to our community. We have another program that's called a Clause 18 hardship exemption that we work with people very diligently to see that if they're having difficulties paying their taxes, that we can defer some of those. We all need to do a better job of promoting the programs that are available, including what we feel is one of the best programs available to our community. It's a tax deferral program. Our town was kind enough a few years ago to reduce the actual interest rate that people would pay if they chose to defer their taxes. Went from 8%, it was reduced down to 5%. And I want to point out that that particular deferral program is at a simple interest rate. It is not compounded yearly for people. So if people meet the criteria as determined by the Department of Revenue, they can defer their taxes until another time. They can do it for a year, they can do it for the rest of their lives. The town does place a lien on the property and eventually gets paid those back taxes. But it's a tremendous program for that $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 in taxes that senior may pay. That amount of money can be very, very important to them. I want to point out the green file on the table. Those were the exemptions that we voted on today. And Carla, if you would please show just one file. That's one application that a senior put together to receive a $1,500 tax credit in this community. In the bottom of each of those forms, there's an audit that the staff go through with our seniors who make an application for that program. And it is audited, any new application comes in, and we do a random sampling every year for renewed applications that come into us to see that we're utilizing our due diligence to see that these people do qualify for these programs. That is one batch out of over 240 applications that come in every year. For seniors, for those who are sight impaired, and for our noted veterans who receive different and various exemptions in the community. So to try to be quick and to summarize, we will make the same recommendation that we have for many, many years. That we vote a residential factor of 1, that we tax all of our properties the same in the community, and that we do not have either a residential exemption, nor an open space, nor a small business exemption. And Madam Chair, I would open up to questions from your board, to the staff, or our board.
Yeah, questions from the board, Michael?
No questions, just thank you to the Board of Assessors and assessing and staff. And thank you for not 200 pages to read. This is perfect.
Thank you.
No questions, just thank you as well.
Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've been down the same road as Richard for almost as long, but not quite. So I appreciate all the effort that goes into this. Thanks from all of us.
Madam Chair, any questions from you?
One thing I do want to ask you is to your point about doing a better job to educate. Other than maybe putting flyers, I think in our tax bills, I can't recall if we do anything in the tax bills.
No.
We don't, but we can look into it.
Yeah.
The difficulty with the tax bills, we get a number of requests to put flyers in there and fillers in, and there's only so much we can do.
Yeah.
We'll be happy to discuss it. I will tell you that Ms. Jones attended the Council on Aging breakfast, the men's and women's breakfast. And I believe all of the new applications that came in the last couple of weeks were from those breakfasts of her doing a presentation. She will be doing a television program, getting out. Our friends in the media hopefully will publicize the programs that we have available. And I do see the chair of our Council on Aging sitting in the audience tonight, and I know their department does a great job of publicizing the different programs that are available. We will do our utmost to continue to publicize that, to get it out to the community.
Great, thank you. Don, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, actually, I have to profess to my own ignorance. You know that I work with Site Law Services, and I'm not sure that we were aware. What's your threshold? Is it legal blindness, or is it low vision, or what?
Legal blindness, deemed blind by the
2100
commissioner.
or 2200 with correction, then?
As long as you have a certificate from the commissioner of the
Right.
blind. We
Yeah,
don't know
the
exact
MCB,
numbers.
yeah.
There are two things we use criteria. We get a letter from the commissioner that will state that they have a legal blindness, that they can qualify. Same thing for a veteran who has served. There is a certain level, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a minimum of 10% disability
Yeah.
that we get a letter from the Veterans Organization stating those are the criteria that we use to grant those.
I say that because even if we don't know who particularly they are, the MCB has a registry
Correct.
that they
Right.
keep.
Correct. And again, I would ask you as well to, any time you're out there, if you're speaking to people in the community, Mr. Handler, you do your office hours, and if someone is coming in who could qualify, to please put them in touch with the assessor's office, and that the staff are tremendous in dealing with our residents.
Perfect.
So if you're so inclined, though, we do have a form. Should you vote the way we are recommending to sign those forms tonight so that we can move those forward? We do have the tax rate that was literally
Estimated.
estimated tax rate. It has not been approved yet, but that was just finished with the assistance of, obviously, the finance director here this evening, and they were working like crazy this afternoon. The estimated tax rate moving forward will be $6.13 per thousand.
Great, thank you. Michael?
Thank you. All right, I'm going to make some motions. I move to vote a residential factor of 1.
You make them all separately?
I'm going to make them all separate. That's how we did it last year.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. I move to not grant an open space exemption.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I move to not grant a residential exemption.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
I move to not grant a small commercial exemption.
Second. Small business.
What? Small commercial. okay. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And do we need a motion to authorize a chair to sign the LA5?
Please.
So
Yes.
I move to authorize our chair, to sign the LA5 on behalf of the select board.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Chair, if you would be so kind as to sign that, we can move things forward to get certified.
No line, oh, okay, all right. No problem. A new pen, too.
Saving on wing.
Thanks.
You all need to sign it.
Oh,
She signs it electronically.
Right, she signs electronically. You're going to sign all of them, right?
oh, okay.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
if you have nothing else of the board, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the Board of Assessors meeting.
So we all sign,
Thank you, Dave.
And second, and all in favor? Aye. The Board of Assessors meeting is adjourned.
thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
very
again,
much.
Richard, appreciate it,
I authorized all of us to
all
sign.
of you.
Next year it'll be on.
Okay.
They're saving on ink. What more do you want?
All right. Get the consent agenda.
Thank you. I move that we approve the Select Board meeting minutes with one correction on page 13. I believe Michael Locke's name is spelled incorrectly,
Yes, it is.
and I'd like to have that corrected for the record. So my motion is to move to approve the Select Board meeting minutes with that change
Second.
from 11/13/2023.
Oh, you're gonna do them all.
You gonna do them all?
all three?
I move that we accept the resignation of Sheila Eldridge as a member of the Treasure Chest Committee. And I move that we accept the resignation of Eileen Garrity as a member of the Harwich Accessibility Rights Committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Julie, if I may?
Yeah.
Could we add to the agenda next week to discuss the membership on the HARC?
Yes, so I was going to bring that, actually.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we have new business. We have the update on 2023 Annual Town Meeting, Article 12, Preschool Family Support Program.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Just state your name for the record.
Sure. So I'm Julie Wittes. I'm actually the Director of the Council on Aging, but here filling in for the other end of the age spectrum today. I guess I'll start with giving you a little of the background and a little bit of my update, and then you can just ask me some questions to
Great.
let me know exactly what you're looking for. So the primary message that I wanted to convey with the update was that I feel that the program has been extremely successful and that it's provided a very valuable resource for the community and a very much needed resource to the working families in Harwich. Everyone who I have spoken to personally, all of the families have expressed a lot of gratitude, not only for the grants themselves, but just for the fact that the town has recognized that this is something that the young families in town are struggling with, that the costs of childcare are very high, and especially in a landscape where the costs of everything are very high, that housing is difficult, and it seems like everything is going up. So they feel supported. And I think that's that feeling that the town is trying to recognize them and give back is a big win. I wanted to just note that the rollout of the program did move very quickly. Of course, there was a relatively short timeline to get things out. We really tried to finalize the application so that it would be ready in time so that we could be able to pay tuition bills for kids who were starting a program in September. So when I joined the project, I met with Lucy Gilmore of the Monomoy Early Education, Early Childhood Family Resource Center. And she had already had a draft application ready, along with some suggested procedures, a suggested grant amount that they were thinking about. And suggested that I look that over and kind of go from there. The application as it was very simple and straightforward, and it sounded like that. The feedback that I had from administration was that simple was okay. So we took that, we made some tweaks and took that to legal, and when legal gave us their revisions and we, did a little back and forth, and we went forward with that. So we were live with the application by August 1st, and the response was overwhelming. We got many, many, many applications right away, the same day, the first week, and then they just kept coming all month. So there's a condensed version of the timeline and the update that I gave you guys there. To date, we have enrolled 63 kids. To be eligible, the children had to be 3 or 4 years old on August 31st. It was KP Law's suggestion that we, pick a specific day and decide that they should be of the age on that day, to have the eligibility criteria decided that way. So that's where that came from. And then just to give you an idea of who's in the program, I pulled out the youngest child and the oldest child. So the youngest had just turned 3 the day before, and now the oldest child in the program has turned 5 already. That was something that we discussed with our legal counsel, is that if someone was eligible on the day they enrolled, they could stay in the program. We're not, removing someone once they turn 5.
Right.
So the invoices have been coming. At the time that I pulled the numbers for this update that I presented in the packet, we had 120 invoices submitted. It's the middle of the month, so a lot are coming in. So now I've got 135. So they come frequently, and there's a lot of them. And we have spent, again, at the time of the update, around $60,000 already. And we've allocated pretty much everything.
All of it, right. That's wonderful, and I just want to start off by saying, first of all, thank you for all of the information and the summary. I do want to say thank you so much to you and Lucy. You've done an amazing job in a very short period of time. And I also need to share with board members, I've gotten some wonderful emails, and it's just really uplifting getting a positive email, and people taking the time out to say what a difference it's made in their life. So I'll share those because they really are wonderful emails to get. And I'll open it to other board members if they have any questions.
No questions, just thank you. Great job. It's a great program, and I've also received a lot of feedback on it. I think going forward, Julie, and thank you for bringing this forward to town meeting, going forward to continue to do it, we're going to have to come up with another funding source besides free cash. I know we can't do reoccurring expenses on free cash, but it looks like we should have enough for another year anyway.
Right, yeah. So, well, and we should look to see what, and I was saying that, I mentioned that to Joe, in terms of as we work through the budget to see what we can do. Maybe we could increase it, maybe we can't, but at least let's hope to fund it at the same level, if not a little bit more. Jeff?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for all the work, and I too have received some really uplifting emails, and they're all fun to read. Thank you for the recommendations for fiscal year '25. For me, I'm not speaking for the rest of the board, but for me, I'd like to understand better, well, I'll start it this way. For me, reaching as many kids as possible would be a big interest for me. But also keeping the admin burden as simple as can be. So how did you find with the administration, the burden with the administrative work? Was it overwhelming? Was it doable? What do you think from the boots on the ground perspective?
I share both of your concerns. The response was definitely, it was more overwhelming than we expected, honestly. We used I feel like it was the best data we had. It was based on kindergarten enrollment. I think where we fell short was we pulled the statistic of the national average of enrollment in preschool, and I think more kids are enrolled in preschool in Cape Cod, but we didn't have that. We did look for it, but we didn't have it. So we used the best that we had, and it was off. And I do believe we should have been more conservative with how we administered things. At the beginning, there was a lot of excitement to tell parents, great, we can help you in this way, here's your approval letter. And I did feel that some patience would have been a more constructive way to approach things. So we're, sort of halfway through the month, and I did want to pull back a little bit, but that was the part that had been consulted out. So I was in sort of a sticky situation with that. So I do think that having clearer guidelines exactly about how we're going to handle that distribution up front, when we don't know exactly how many kids we're expecting to enroll, we need to handle a little bit better, so that we can distribute the funds to as many children as possible. So some ideas were put into the recommendations, as you saw. Another idea that didn't make it in there, but that was floated, was a lottery system. You take applications all the way through a certain date and then hold a lottery. If you want to give out a higher award but to fewer kids, that's not my favorite path, but it's something that other towns do, so I wanted to put it out there. I think giving out a smaller portion at the beginning and then distributing more later is probably a good is a fair and equitable distribution. But there's a slightly higher administrative burden attached to that. And then getting to the administrative burden, it is higher than I expected. I mean, I knew it was going to be not small. But, there's 60 kids plus who are for each one of those, we get an invoice at least once a month. And someone has to process them. And I'm very, very, very grateful. I have a very patient executive assistant who's happy to do that for us. And I treat her very well for that. But before, it was at a point of maintenance where she was able to take that on, and the admin burden fell on me. It did take a lot of my time, and it did take me away from my traditional, my primary duties for a little while. So there was a balancing act.
Okay.
That's good feedback.
Yeah, last point, if I may, and I'm so proud of our town for doing this. I think this is fantastic, and all the work you've all done. I would really be open to hear how the select board could help you and what you're doing, because I think this is super valuable. And I'm not going to make any assumptions of how we could help you, but I'd love to sit down with you and have a discussion as to how you could see this board here helping you along your way going forward. So thanks again.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and to that point, I think that's such a valid point, because both you and Julie jumped in and really got this going without a lot of time. So moving forward, I think that's fair. We need to assess how to better, distribute that workload.
Yeah.
So thanks again for doing that. And Dawn?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Recognizing that there is a state voucher program that's needs-based, and understanding that if you're going to start talking about income basing, it actually probably penalizes people right above that threshold. It's probably a pretty complicated discussion. I was more interested, in agreeing with what Michael said about this, is avoiding it being a one-off, because it wasn't a durable funding formula to just hit free cash each year. So I'd like to see us tackle that first and make sure that this thing, because Julie brought it to us, and I want to make sure that it sticks. And perfecting the program is another story, but having it available is terrific. It's been really valuable to a lot of parents.
And on that note, I think we want to be very careful, because some of the parents who are getting help are parents who wouldn't qualify otherwise. So I want to be very careful not to have a specific income limit. I think, ultimately, for the amount of money we spend on other things, this is a vital part of trying to help our parents and help our kids, because, and again, I'm repeating myself, but, you know, I look at this as really a trifecta, because it's helping the children, it's helping the parents, but it's also helping the teachers. So by the time those children get to kindergarten, they're better prepared, so that they enter at a higher level that they wouldn't be if their parents couldn't send them. Or maybe it's that they get an extra day, and so they're getting more out of it, so it's helping our teachers at that level too, so. I think it's a win-win-win, and we need to look at how to continue to fund it, to Michael's point, not by free cash, but in our budget, and if possible, to be able to expand it.
Yeah.
So I think it's critical to, you know, also the other problem that we face is housing. So whatever we can do to alleviate while we try to fix the housing problem.
Right. The, many of these parents are paying as much as a mortgage payment for their childcare, if not more, depending on when they got their mortgage. So it certainly does alleviate, in some ways, the housing burden, because they're able to put a little bit more towards their rent or something.
Right,
Yeah.
right, so. Any other questions from board members? So thank you again, Julie. It's, you know, really I can't thank you and Lucy enough, because without your help, this would not have been possible to roll out for this fall. So thank you.
Thank you. It was actually a really exciting opportunity for me, and I was happy to work on it. It was fun getting to tell a lot of people that they were
Yeah.
getting something that they weren't expecting.
Yeah, that's good. Good news for a change, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
would you consider, with the board's indulgence, bringing old business C up next?
Yes.
I know Michael
Yep.
Locke's in the audience
Yep.
tonight, and he has some family obligations, and it would be nice to get him out of here as quick as we can.
Definitely. Michael, feel free to come up. So this is the update on public access to Hinckley's Pond. Thank you for providing that additional info.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and Michael, thank you, and members of the Select Board. Michael Locke, Executive Director of the nonprofit Harwich Conservation Trust. So as an update to a topic that was raised during the public comment section of your November 13th Select Board meeting relative to access off of a dirt road that extends from Headwaters Drive toward Hinckley Pond over conservation land. Mr. Gerard Elias, who is in the audience, raised the issue. I also spoke to the issue, as did a resident on Edwards Road that parallels this dirt road. So in summary, and I'm going to really let Mr. Elias speak for himself, but to summarize the access topic, the trust acquired the area through its nonprofit partner, the Compact of Cape Cod Conservation Trusts, about 2 years ago. It's a roughly an acre and a half property, part of a larger 30-acre property. Majority of the land located easterly of the Cape Cod Rail Trail at the corner of Headwaters Drive and Pleasant Lake Ave. Acquired the property from Fred and Barbara Jenkins. And the 1.5 acre property, the one that's really the focus of interest, has this dirt road that crosses, again, like I said, from Headwaters Drive toward Hinckley's Pond. And there have been issues brought to Harwich Conservation Trust attention relative to traffic along that dirt road at late night hours, early in the morning, trash along the shore, vandalism to abandoned pump house at the end of that dirt road, and Harwich Conservation Trust, trying to be good neighbors, I was trying to manage those issues relative to the quality of life experienced by the residents along Edward Road, pardon me, and we placed a chain across the dirt road because that was our best effort at managing the vandalism and the unauthorized vehicle access across that dirt road, because it was mostly occurring at night. We did not block foot access. Anybody could walk that area down to the pond to get a view, to fish. But Mr. Elias brought it to my attention not long after that chain was put up that he had traveled that dirt road with his car and trailer, bringing a fishing kayak down there. And I explained to Mr. Elias what we were trying to manage, that I just summarized to you, and then bring it forward to the November 13th public comment section of your agenda. Both sides of that issue were shared with the Select Board. And again, resident Glenn Suter, who is also in the audience, spoke to the Edwards Road neighborhood experience. So it's a complex site. It's a small site. I also wanted to mention that most of the area that we're talking about as it gets closer to the pond is within the 0 to 100 foot town and state wetland regulatory buffer. So there's that aspect as well we're trying to pay attention to. And I did want to say Mr. Elias reached out Tuesday morning, November 14th, after the November 13th Select Board meeting, and had an interesting suggestion. And that is, could we figure out how to manage access with volunteers that could accommodate his interests and other fishermen interests from sunrise to sunset, while still closing off the access so we don't have the noise and the trash and the vehicle traffic at all hours of the night bothering the neighbors along Edwards Road. And I've shared that with our board chair at Harwich Conservation Trust, as well as our director of land stewardship, Connor O'Brien. It's a work in progress. Harwich Conservation Trust strives to be good neighbors to all stakeholders, and we look forward to trying to find an appropriate access solution. So that's where we are today, November 20th, a week from the last time this topic was raised at your November 13th meeting. Here in the audience, in addition to Mr. Elias, is Tom Evans, President of the Harwich Conservation Trust Board of Trustees, as well as Mr. Suter, Edwards Road neighbor. There are other Edwards Road neighbors and others who are involved with the Hinckley's Pond Association. So that's my summary to date.
Thank you, Michael. It's very full and comprehensive summary based on the discussion that we had at the original meeting to get some clarification. And it's great to hear that you're looking to work together to see if there's something more that can be done. Do board members have any other follow-up questions? Dawn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just concerned, I know that when we went through this initially, Michael had some strong feelings about it. He wasn't at that meeting. That's kind of why I asked to have a successor meeting. That's it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael, thank you. And really, this is not our jurisdiction. This belongs to Harwich Conservation Trust. I called Michael Locke today. I also called the state, and I called a few other people, and certainly appreciate you working with Mr. Elias and your willingness to work with the town. And I would hope that the residents on Edwards call the police every time they hear something down there, especially at night. And we do have our deputy police chief in, and I'm sure he's hearing the message, and maybe patrols could be beefed up going down to that pump house. I spent, from when I could ride a bike until this summer, fishing in that pond. It's one of my favorite ponds to fish. I have gone down and launched my kayak at that pump house as well. It's not a heavily used area, so your suggestions of solutions, we do this out on Depot, on the town side with our shooting range. So they go to the police station, they pick up a key. This is a little cumbersome if you're kayaking and having to drive there. The other solution sounded better. But for our shooting range, they go pick up a key and a flag. They go down, they can use our shooting range, and then they have to bring it back. There's a pond out in North Harwich off of Westgate that the Conservation Commission blocked because of this same thing. They blocked it by cutting down trees over all of the trails going into there. And when people go in with their chainsaws and clear them, they cut a couple more trees down that are dead. And it seems like an interesting game, but I walk out there quite a bit. This is one of the only accesses to Hinckley's Pond, and when the Conservation Trust was purchasing it, that was one of my sticking points, really, was the town controlling that access in there so that people could continue to use that. But I certainly appreciate, we have a few bad actors that are ruining it for everybody, and that seems to happen more often than not. And hopefully with increased police presence and you working, we can solve this without closing it. But certainly people putting graffiti on pump houses and breaking things and having fires and leaving trash is not the people that we want using it. So we want people to be able to enjoy that pond, and you know, for some of us, carrying the 70 or 80 pound fishing kayaks is not going to happen walking down the bike trail and putting them in. So if we could figure out how to keep it open, but most importantly, I appreciate your willingness and Harwich Conservation Trust willingness to work with the residents, because you've always been great partners. And this is your decision. This is not our decision. I did, in speaking with Michael today, talked about the town has put up other gates on property that we may not own. So maybe DPW could work with you, and the town could work with Harwich Conservation Trust. Their first attempt at a gate was a chain and a lock, which was met with a chainsaw, I believe, and it didn't win. Our metal gates, chainsaws won't work. Torches maybe, but the neighbors would certainly see that. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael.
Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Michael, this is how you've always been since the minute I met you many years ago, and you're such a perfect person to be in this position, and I thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Elias, for coming back and speaking, or at least being here. And I would just say I echo everything Michael said, other than the torch, and I hope there's a reasonable solution that can come out of this from sunrise to sunset.
Thank you, Jeff. You all set, Don?
Yeah, I said what I said.
Thank you.
I figured Michael would have something to say.
Yeah. Sorry?
There's a
So-
question about public comment from anybody else who wants to speak to the issue. Is the question.
That's fine. You can, it's not a public comment session, but I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Thank you, and I want to say
Thank you, Michael.
Tom, you gotta go up to the mic.
And I just want to say thank you for switching the order. It's my mother's 77th birthday,
Oh, that's wonderful.
so I appreciate it.
Happy birthday to your mom.
Well done.
I did it for his mom, not Michael, but
I don't want to be speaking out of turn, and you had gone to the select board, and so I didn't know if you had ended public comment, so that
That's
triggered my-
fine.
triggered my question. My name is Tom Evans, and I serve as president of the Harwich Conservation Trust's 12-member volunteer board of trustees. I'm appreciative, Michael, of your comments. Your package included copies of the state website description of Hinckley's Pond, which I think is very straightforward and clear. You know, the reality is that in most cases when individuals or organizations buy private land, the first signs that go up read private property, no trespassing. And the exemptions to this are land trusts and municipalities that are trying to preserve land in the public interest. And just like the town, but as private owners, a significant part of our mission is providing appropriate access to the properties that we seek to preserve and protect for the common good of our town and all of its residents. The challenge here is appropriate and trying to figure out what that means. In doing so, we need to be mindful of the realities of land ownership, the legalities, the regulations, the differing characteristics of each particular property, and every property is different. Some are small, some are large, some have wetlands, some have vernal pools, some have beaches, some have the potential for trails, others do not. we have the challenges of access and trail maintenance and the competing interests of many users. And while most of those users are, as we've appreciated tonight, most of them are appreciative and constructive, a small minority are not understanding of complying with the basic rules for the common good. And we're not alone here. We know that the town deals with this and has similar experience on its conservation properties. It's dumping, it's structural encroachment, it's vandalism, it's graffiti, it's noisy parties, even drug transactions. These are all town issues as much as they are ours. Part of the challenge here for us is we don't have other town resources to turn to readily. We can't turn to the highway department to help us in cleanup. We don't have town agencies. We're 4 full-time equivalents and a couple hundred volunteers who help in the course of the year, but it's tough for us to stay on top of all of this. I'm also pleased that you mentioned the limited access to Hinckley's Pond. One of our questions that we would turn back over to the town has to do with my personal experience putting in my canoe on Hinckley's Pond, which I did from the parking lot right across the street from the general store on Route 124. I used that for years. I don't know if that was town property or state property, but it has been blocked off and prohibits public access from that point. And perhaps that or other means of access to the pond can be part of our discussion going forward. But as Michael has said, we want to try to find a solution for this for the good of everyone involved. So thank you.
Thank you.
Gerard Elias. I'll make this brief. I won't repeat everything that I brought up the last time with regard to potential legalities surrounding the blocking of the access road. I did, through my research, find one other issue that the town may be interested in, and that is the legal doctrine of adverse possession. Michael, you, like myself, have used that pond, as you just admitted, for several years. That access cartway has been available and has been used by many of us throughout the years. By virtue of this legal doctrine of adverse possession, I might argue, I'm not an attorney, but as a layperson, I might argue that the town actually, if not owns, has the right of use of that cartway, and by extension, all of the residents of the town. So I think that's something that the town should consider. One other point I'd want to bring up is that using the parking lot across the street, as some might suggest, from the cartway and then walking your kayak down to launch really is not reasonable. In fact, it may be unsafe because that parking lot is not directly across the street, Headwaters Drive, from the cartway, but rather it's across the street from the hike and bike trail that's there. So what one would have to do would be to actually wheel their cart or rather canoe or whatever they're using to access the pond on Headwaters. And as everyone here knows, there's a sharp bend there, so that could be very dangerous. The distance from that parking lot to the pond is 1/4 mile. My fishing kayak, fully loaded down, weighs 135 pounds. That cartway is frequently rutted. It's always rutted. There are frequently bushes overhanging, and more often than not, at least halfway down the cartway, is a separate pond because of rainwater. So again, it's impractical to actually drag your kayak down there. Lastly, I would add the suggestion that I made to Michael is one that we see frequently throughout the Northeast, where I travel for my fishing expeditions. Frequently, there is access that's allowed to ponds and lakes by the respective towns who control it. And what they do is they have stated hours. Very oftentimes, it's from sunrise to sunset. There's usually a locked gate that is opened by a volunteer or someone that works for the town at sunrise, and then it's closed at sunset. And that's what I recommended to Michael when I had the conversation. I think that's the easiest way to resolve the issue. It resolves the disturbance at night. That's troubling, understandably, the neighbors in the community, and it allows us to have access to the property at the same time. So hopefully that's a quick, easy solution. Not that expensive, I might add, and would at least allow me to drive down and others and drop off my kayak. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Yep, appreciate your consideration.
No problem.
Thank you. Julie, if I may?
Sure.
Thank you for that. And the good news is, I think with Harwich Conservation Trust, we're not going to have to use the word legal. I think that they're gonna work with us. And Michael Lack, today, I offered my help and offered to help him come up with a reasonable solution. And to your point, there's not a lot of us that use that lake from that landing. So really, the concession is going to be for very few, and it will stop the people from driving down there at night. One less dirt road for the police cruisers to have to go down and the guys to have to wash.
Thank you for that, and I likewise feel through my limited experience with Michael that we don't need to go the legal route. That's not my intent. My intent with bringing up those issues is to make sure that the town is aware that there are legal issues surrounding access to Great Ponds. There has to be an access. This is the only one that's known to me. I'm not familiar with the one off 124, if that's a suitable alternative. Remembering the heavy kayaks that some of us use, then that's fine. It doesn't need to be this one, but it needs to be one. By law, there has to be access to a great pond, reasonable access. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Give Tom a lot of credit carrying his canoe down that hill across from the store. A lot of credit.
I wonder if the environmental folks in the crowd would have something to say about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie, for taking that out of order.
No problem. So we're back to doing our licenses on the renewals. And so, Jeff, you're going to make the
Sure.
motion with the...
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we approve the following Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 12, on-premise annual liquor license renewals. Allen Harbor Yacht Club, Inc., 371 Lower County Road. Blue Stripe LLC, DBA Cape Sea Grill, 31 C Street. BLM Restaurant Group, Incorporated, DBA Lanyard Bar and Grill, 429 Route 28. Brax Restaurant Management, Incorporated, DBA Brax Landing, 705 Main Street. Cape Roots Market and Cafe, LLC, DBA Cape Roots Market and Cafe, 557 Route 28, Unit 101. 400 East Incorporated, 1421 Orleans Road. Harwich Port Seafarer Incorporated, DBA Harwich Port Seafarer, 86 Sisson Road. Hot Stove Inc., DBA Hot Stove Saloon, 551 Route 28. Morningstar Restaurant Inc., DBA Villa Roma, 278 Route 28. Red River Barbecue LLC, 787 Route 28. Shooting Star Realty LLC, DBA Buca's Restaurant, 4 Depot Road. Spiridion and Agalia Christakis, DBA George's Pizza, 564 Route 28.
Thank you, Jeff.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I move that we approve the following Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 15, off-premise annual liquor license renewals. ATJX Inc., DBA Moonshine Liquors, 4 Great Western Road. Cranberry Liquors at Harwich Port, 555 Route 28. Main Street Quick Pick Inc., DBA Main Street Market, 715 Main Street. Portside Liquors 3 Incorporated, DBA Portside Liquors, 1421 Route 39.
Second.
Moved and seconded. And any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I also move that we approve with a condition to fix a non-compliant sticker, Malek Corp., DBA Value Mart, 435 Route 28.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
This-
All in- Yeah?
This would have to be redone then, correct, with the condition?
We're gonna hold it and verify that it's fixed, and then we'll.
Before you
As fast
issue.
as you want us to sign it and then hold it.
Preferably, yes,
Okay. That's,
if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah,
We won't issue that until we verify that
And
that
get that piece.
sticker is
that's why I
been
put it out here.
okay, that's fine. So moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, old business. Update on information technology costs, overview of the last 5 years. So all that information was in our packet. It's, follow-up to the other information that Sarah gave us last week. Hi. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, just state your name.
Sarah Eaton, Information Technology Director.
Thank you, Sarah. So thank you for the information and the overview of the last 5 years. I don't have specific questions, but does any board member?
The only
Michael?
question I had, Sarah, for now anyway, and I think I've got some questions for the town administrator as far as direction goes.
Okay.
But looking at the chart, the helpful chart, just looking at current professional services, I would just say most of it's probably Barnstable County.
Okay.
Yeah, most of that is Barnstable County, Hub Tech. I'd say that the title of professional services is a little misleading on that, but it's mainly the yearly services. So Barnstable County, Hub Tech, and a couple of other ones that we have that come out of that.
Okay, and I noticed we have gone up significantly in that as well as, and I know when we went to Barnstable County originally, it was due to some absence in the IT department, and we had gotten a contract with them.
Yep.
Why are we using them so much now, in the tune of a 79% increase year-to-date, 184,000? 4 years ago, we were at 35,000, which I know Barnstable County was not in the picture at that point. Then we went to 92,000, so I believe we used some of their services, and then 104,000. We were using a lot of their services, and I believe we were down the employee at that point. It was prior to you being hired.
Correct.
Now we have a full-time employee, and we're at 184,000. What is the reason for that, and how long are we gonna keep
So-
Barnstable County?
So some of that, the 80, part of that for the professional services, under that is also 35,000 for the permitting software and
Okay.
stuff. So that's why, because when I was trying to do the budget for this fiscal year,
Yeah,
well, actually for fiscal year '23, that was done prior to my hiring, so
so 35,000 is software.
right,
That's
yeah,
out of
software.
80.
Yeah, so for like this current fiscal year for '24, I tried to like start organizing things to better flow, and make sense. But I think a lot of that is, the software and stuff, but yes, off the top of my head, it's just under 100,000 for, Barnstable County IT. I think it's like 98,000. And Hub Tech is, 60,000.
Okay. And what does Hub Tech do for us?
Hub Tech actually, they monitor our network, network security, and they were doing server backup for a lot of our servers and disaster recovery. So if we had gotten infiltrated with a virus or something, we'd be able to get back up and running. So that's what they do. And actually, they there was an attempt, a brute force attempt, and they caught it right away and stopped it. And so,
Money
that's where,
well spent.
yes, money well spent, so.
And how long do you foresee the need for Barnstable County? I mean, what services are they doing for us that we can't do ourselves? That's a significant amount of money, $90,000.
Yeah.
And I ask because I would ask the town administrator, if we're gonna spend $95,000 on an outside source, what would it cost us to do it internally?
Correct. So I think right now it's, they're kind of just filling that void to help with they're on site 2 days a week to help with projects and stuff, helping me with whatever needs to get done for upgrading. And they're also still doing some of the Teams and Microsoft 365 upgrade, which we're closing in on the end of that and being fully up onto the 365 environment. And they also provide coverage for when I'm on vacation. So right now, they're kind of augmenting staff as just being a department of one.
Okay, thank you. Mail server, that switched, correct? Recently, did we change?
Yes.
Okay. How long, and I know I've asked you this in an email, how long am I gonna get these half an hour to 45-minute surveys testing how dumb I am on a computer?
They'll be done the end of December, because I did it for the September through December courses, and I'll look at ones that aren't as intense, but still provide information, because they have been helpful, because there were a couple attempts last week of phishing emails, and the employee sent it to me. They're like, "Hey, this doesn't look right," and so I looked into it, and I'm like, "Yep, that is actually a phishing email." And then I sent out a email wide to everybody, letting everybody know, "Hey, be on the lookout for these, because these aren't actual emails." So,
And is that part of this new mail system? Because I don't recall ever having any of this before.
no, it is a grant that the state does. They do it every year, and so towns can apply each year right around this time to either do it for the whole year, which breaks it out more, like it's 4 courses, but it's, less intense if you do the full year. Last year, I chose the abbreviated version for the end of the year, just because last year around this time, we were going to start ramping up and switching over to the new email and servers and 365, so I didn't want to overwhelm everybody.
Gotcha. Last question, my grades are not going to be posted as a public record, or how many times I may have failed or may not have.
They're online
That's
already.
not a public record, right?
No, that's not a public record. Well, it's with the state, so that's up to the state.
That's why it's taken him so long.
That's it, thank you.
Struggling.
Well, trying to do 4 other things and just click the button, it's not like the state ethics test where you can't get it wrong. This you can actually get wrong. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Jeff, do you have any questions?
I don't even know what to know. How do you follow that? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to handle what he said in reverse order. As far as you can't recall this, I had this conversation, Sarah, that a couple of years ago, I did get a phishing email through the regular, so we weren't doing anything. I was told, just delete it, don't worry about it. And I can think of the city of Atlanta, a myriad of hospitals that have experienced ransomware. If we go into that, we're in real trouble, because that's real money. And when you're doing this, because verbally it's hard to track what you're talking about, I would love for you to talk collaterally, not just about what you're doing, how much more expensive everything is now, but what you're doing that you weren't doing, and why that's important. Because you and I have had this conversation. There's the vulnerabilities we had. I go by a number of axioms, and one is never confuse luck for skill. And we have been very lucky. We've got tax records, birth records, death records. We got all kinds of things. If those all got locked up, God bless us all, we'd be in serious trouble.
Agreed, and the money we'd spend on that would be awful. I get them from here and I get them from work, so I'm getting them from 2 sides. They're not a lot of fun, but they do teach you some things, so.
Same answers.
Yeah. So thank you, Sarah. I don't think anybody else has any other questions, so we appreciate you putting all that information together and all the work that you've been putting into upgrading the system. I know it's pretty intense, so thank you.
Right. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Discussion and possible vote to add alternates and improve voting rights for certain committees, including the Board of Health. So we had this discussion before. Sharon had brought it to us, and we talked about it, and I'm going to go over to Megan to give some more.
Sure. Sharon Flieger is our Board of Health chairperson, and she has brought up the concept of adding more members to the Board of Health. Right now, it is a 5-member board without alternates. She is suggesting adding 2 members with alternates on top of that with voting rights. The question came, is it legally required to only have 5, or is it possible to have more? How do we go about doing that? The answer is, it's a charter change and a bylaw change. There isn't anything beyond our own documents that say we can't do that. So we would have to do both a bylaw change and a charter change, which would take town meeting vote.
Okay.
So it is possible. One caution is when we increase membership, as we're seeing with the HARC, quorum
Right.
numbers are higher.
Higher.
So you definitely have to have a board that is dedicated to attending every month in order to get work done. Otherwise, you end up having to skip meetings because you can't get a quorum.
Right.
So that's just one caution that I provide. But this is something that Sharon has brought up, and I think she wants to speak.
Yeah, yeah, sure, go ahead.
You have to go to the microphone.
Get for a minute, will you?
Sharon Flieger, Board of Health Chairperson. Question, you said something that would require an additional quorum. Or did I misunderstand you?
If you increase your membership to 7,
Even though they're alternate members?
no. No, I thought you wanted to increase the entire membership. to
No.
7.
She just wants
No.
alternates.
Okay,
Alternate members.
okay.
Okay, all right, because I was, all right, then, all right, so now, along with that, I have all right, so then, if we're looking at alternate members, then do the voting rights still apply to that? That they will have voting rights?
Just like every other board that has alternates, yes.
Okay, all right, and then I have another question. Before you vote on this, and I don't know if you need to vote on it or not, but when you would interview for this, whether it would be required for those alternates to attend meetings so that it would make sense, if they're going to vote, that they should have some background of what's going on. If they're going to be an alternate, for them to come to most of the meetings, that they're aware of what's going on, so that if we are short, because this has happened to us on a number of occasions, where we get there and all of a sudden we don't have enough. And then we've had people there coming into the meetings and we have to send them back. So,
Well, there is something called the Mullins Rule that other boards have used when something like this happens, where members aren't present during a meeting, but their vote is required to make a quorum.
yeah,
They sign an affidavit saying they've reviewed the videos, they've reviewed all of the information, they're up to date, so they can legally vote on a matter. So there is a way to.
so you're referring to those alternates
Yes,
that would do
or
that?
any member can
Oh,
do
all right,
that.
all right, so we could do that with the alternates, because very often we don't know until that last minute we don't have a quorum. Okay, so the alternates could do that as well, so I need more information on that. All right, I didn't know if that had to be voted on now with what you're voting, or whether that is something that can be put into the charter, or wherever it has to go.
So we would need to draft an article, did you?
Yeah.
Well, so just one thing, so back to the question you have on the alternates and voting, another good resource to talk to is Board of Appeals and Planning Board, because they have alternates, and in terms of them being able to vote at specific hearings, if somebody's an alternate and has sat in on a certain number of meetings, then they're able to vote on certain matters. If they haven't attended certain meetings and aren't fully aware, and there's certain numbers, so I'm just saying there's a good reference for you to talk to while we work on drafting an article to bring to town meeting to change both the code and the charter.
Okay, all right.
Don?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to go partially down that same road. Sharon, I've talked with you about this before. It wasn't a concern about whether alternates could vote, but for instance, the planning board, an alternate can only vote on special permits, they can't vote on other things. So the magnitude of what the Mass General Law allows, I got a call out that I was expecting a return call today from the Executive Director of Mass Association of Health Boards that was going to ask just that question. Can they vote on anything, or can they be restricted to just certain things? Because I know you do regulations, but you also do waivers and site.
All the other stuff, yes.
Yeah, all the other stuff. So that's the smaller part. I don't want to mislead you here, but the code, by the way, has the bylaws and the charter in it, but the code itself isn't getting altered. It's both of those sections. The bylaw can get changed at this town meeting if we put something in. The charter, as it currently stands, the process we use, it goes through town meeting, it goes back to an election next year. It would take that long to do it. But the numbers are actually in the bylaws. I think you could make a pretty good argument that this is only dealing with numbers. It's not really dealing with substantively what they do or how they do it. But without misleading you, it's not like we put it on the agenda, we can vote on it tonight, and next week you're going to have like alternates, because it's going to take time.
No, I realize this could be up to 2 years is what I'm expecting. Yeah, all right. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Do you want us to vote? I mean, or do you want,
I don't need a vote, Ed, if you want to bring this back at
yeah,
some point.
why don't we just bring it back and,
Vote to
actual
put it on an
something
article.
or other.
yeah, perfect.
Think about
We'll
it.
just keep it.
I would just soon make a motion and put this, we've waited almost 2 years to get to this point from the first request.
Well, we
So
need
I
an
would like to-
article.
I would like to move that we instruct the town administrator to create an article to add 2 alternates to the Board of Health and establish voting rights for the next annual town meeting.
I'll second that, but I have to wait for the response from MAHB to make absolutely sure what I'm doing. But it's a reasonable thought.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna review a draft of the article
Sure.
anyway, so we'll have that information for that.
Okay.
But to get started on the article,
I'll second
I-
it.
yeah, I don't wanna wait any longer.
Well, I'd like clarification from legal on if we have to change both the bylaw and the charter, then making a motion on something moving forward so that it's for the fall won't happen if they're not both changed, correct?
Well, you do have to do both.
They have to
Yeah.
do
You don't
drafts.
have to do them, one will take longer than the other.
Right,
Like,
so the voting ability wouldn't be in the fall. The
Right.
bylaw change would allow us to move forward in the fall, if adopted at town meeting and approved by the Attorney General, but that's not true, because if legal says we have to change the charter as well before this goes into effect.
Right.
So I want that clarification before we take a vote.
In support of what Michael's saying, though, he's just asking for draft language right now. We're not
Which would
voting on
trigger
anything.
legal to get involved.
Yeah.
Well, we can draft something before we can ask the question to legal. I don't care.
We're
I
not
just-
committing to anything yet. That's why I was seconding this. He can come up with the draft language, and then we're going to have to approve it anyway.
So did you second it?
I did. It's
Okay, so-
instructing the town administrator to present us with drafts and changes for both.
Any
Correct.
further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
That's it, contracts. I lost my agenda.
You want the small version or the large version?
No, I have it, I just, it's in my pile now.
No, I think I can see it.
You need this one?
Tell me if I'm wrong. I move to approve a contract with AVI SPL LLC
Everyone's or hers?
for a sound system at 204 Sisson Road Auditorium in the amount of $124,190.09.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Don?
Yeah, for years I've been complaining that sound system was inadequate 20 years ago. So something has to happen to it.
Now we can hear you hit the high note, huh?
No, I do the sound work. I don't do the,
So moved and
Moved and seconded.
any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye. I move that we approve a contract with Colonial Ford, Inc. for the purchase of 3 police cruisers in the amount of $175,194.36.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I have one question.
Okay.
Are these hybrids?
Kevin's coming up.
Good evening. Kevin Considine, Deputy Chief. They are not hybrids.
Question of the Assistant Town Administrator, do they have to be hybrids?
They do
Given
not.
Green Community's new vehicle policy, July 2022.
They do not have to be hybrid. They have to be more fuel efficient than what we're currently using. If we were to make these hybrid, we would have to install all of the appurtenances required to keep them charged. So that's why we haven't gone that route, but they do not have to be hybrid.
Okay, and I'm not suggesting that I'm a fan of the hybrid. We've had this conversation before, but in reading that Green Communities, it seemed that they had to be based on being a green community approved as of July of 2022. So I'll take your word for it.
Yes, and thank you, because we did read that same memo, and we've been on top of that with administration and with Kyle at Highway, and that's what our interpretation of that is.
So moved and seconded, right? It was seconded.
It was.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we move on, I didn't want to conflate the two issues, but when you and I sat down with, trying to transition with the Energy Committee, the question I had is, we still have the hybrid at all for the inspectional departments?
There is a plug out there.
I'm
that
not
is-
asking if there was a vehicle that used to
Oh,
be
we don't
plugged
have
into it,
No, that was a leased vehicle, and we do
Okay.
not have it any longer.
because that was kind of what we had promised when we entered the green communities.
Yeah, I did ask that question too, because we had talked about that, so yeah, it's not.
I was right, it
Be
appears to
charging.
commit us to certain things, and I'm not sure what we're doing right now.
Time, there was 10 of them on the capital plan.
And some people were okay with that, but some people weren't, so. On to town administrator's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have some contracts to announce that have been approved by Joe Powers. The first is a contract for recovery coach services with Outer Cape Health. This is part of the opioid settlement money. It's kind of a long time coming for these contracts, but we have contracted for a .3 full-time equivalent consultant for a recovery coach. This program's being managed through the Board of Health. Our health director, Carrie Schoner, has been working with Outer Cape, and we're excited to have them start. We have a contract with Lawrence Lynch for sidewalk, crosswalk ADA compliance, which is here at this building. If you've been out in the back parking lot, you've seen some marks on the pavement. We are cutting down the median, the island that's between the parking lot and the roadway there to make it accessible, so you don't have to go over a curb. We're changing the location of the ramp into the building, so it's directly across from the crosswalk rather than having to go around, and replacing some of the damaged curbing. That work is going to start next week, so if you are in the parking lot next week, there will be some cordoned off areas where you won't be able to enter from the back door. You'll have to come in. Still the side door downstairs, so it is still accessible, but the double doors most people are used to coming through. You'll have to come through the other side. We have a contract for tree services with Baker Tree Services, and this is for trees along roadways. They offer a per-day fee, which went out to bid, and Tim Baker Incorporated was the low bidder. It's a one-year contract. We have 2 procurements through the fire department. One is for dive gear, and the other is for gas meters. These were both procured using state bid lists. They were on the capital plans and went through the whole 30B process.
Right.
And that's it.
Thank you, Megan. Select Board report. Don?
Just want to wish everybody a happy, safe, and warm Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to say heartfelt congratulations to Monomoy High's field hockey and soccer program to be playing in the last game of your division in the year for your sport is really something else. So it says a lot about our coaches, our parents, our kids, and Monomoy as a system, I think, has just done a phenomenal job. So congratulations to those two teams who have taken it to that level. I'd also like to mention our finance director, Kathleen, as we were walking out of executive session at 9 o'clock the other night. She was in here working, and I just want to make it known that her dedication and her hard work does not go unnoticed. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Thank you, Jeff.
Just happy Thanksgiving to all.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Want an addendum to Jeff, though, because it was a former member. It was a proud parent here. Shout out to Janelle,
Yeah.
who's the proud mother of one of the girls who was on that team.
If we had a full room, I would call for applause, but it would just be us right now. Good job, Monomoy. And can I get a motion to
adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
We are adjourned. Oh, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone who wants to stay back to vote on it can
Yeah, you can hang around.
hang around.
We'll see you later.
Did you get the contracts?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
Are they done?
Oh, I thought,
No,